Before we return this to get its $20 core, I would like to see why it failed. We're going to take it apart and see. I remember once out on the river on my boat, the starter wouldn't work, and I just took it apart and cleaned up the commutator, put it back on, and it started, and it ran another couple months before I replaced it. It was just dirty, just carbon built up. Oh yeah, there's the problem right there. Well guys, my wife's favorite car is broke again. Starter's out. So we're going to start by pulling this wheel off. We're going to try and access from that direction. Not too expensive. I could rock auto it for a starter for $64. Or do I do O'Reilly's for $160 but have a lifetime warranty? But I'll have to wait, and she'll go without her car. Biggest problem with this car is jacking it up. I don't know if this is going to show up or not, but this car has a belly pan that goes all the way midway back. You cannot just slide a jack under this car. There's nowhere. I mean, there's a belly pan. I mean, look at the clearance. Not much, is there? So I can't drive it up on ramps, and I can't put a jack under the front because there's nowhere. It's all plastic. So we got to go from the side. It's Friday, and if I order from Rock Auto, when am I going to get it? Maybe Tuesday, and then I got to pay shipping and handling. The cool thing is O'Reilly's has it in stock for $164, and I can go in here right now and get one. Yep, in stock. There is a $20 core charge. Okay guys, here it is. They have it in stock. It also fits Lincoln's little tiny, itsy bitsy little tiny thing. Man, it is little. I might get a newer one cheaper, but it is what it is. She'd have to go all weekend without a car, and that's not a good thing. She won't be in a good mood. First thing every manual tells you to do is pull the battery. That was my very first YouTube video when I could not get in this thing. So if the battery ever goes dead, that's the only way in this car. People argue with me and just they just say, stick the key in there and turn it. Well, it's in valet mode, and that does not work. Automotive procedure will tell you disconnect the battery. Well, I normally don't do it, but since we're dealing with the main hot wire, this hot wire is going to go straight to the starter on all of them, and so we will definitely disconnect the battery. I'm going to go get a ratchet wrench, but a 5/16. So typically that hot wire is going to go to that lug right there, and the next one is the trigger to that solenoid to engage it. And a way that you could, if it wasn't so hard to get to, a way on a lot of Fords to see if this part, more than likely this is the problem right here, the solenoid. But if you can put a screwdriver or a piece of heavy gauge copper wire between this terminal and that terminal, those two terminals, actually it's just there in that wire right there. You can just cross those two right there. You will engage this starter and see if it works. I remember many a times on GMs, because Ford used to have like this vehicle here, there is a starter solenoid right over there on the firewall, and then there's no solenoid on the starter. GM used to do this, and I remember rebuilding many starter solenoids on a GM when the starter's fine, but the solenoid went bad. The contactors just got dirty. Okay guys, with the wheel removed, there's the starter. And there's the positive wire coming to it. So we're gonna have to drop the belly pan all this is gonna have to come off so we can try and slide under there. So take a look at the starter really good before you go into it. You're gonna have 3 bolts. 1, 2, 3, okay? And then you're gonna have your, what I call your trigger wire and your positive hot wire. So it's really simple to install if you can just get to it, right? When you have a day job, you find yourself out here. Okay, take the belly pan off. 10 millimeter, there's a bolt right there, and there's one at the end right here. We're just gonna loosen them all up. Then, up here, that's a Phillips screw, and then there are 3 bolts going across the front fascia. We need to loosen all those. And a tip I have found is to put a box or something under here to support this on so it doesn't just fall. I know it's a real pain dropping the belly pan, but if you put a box under there, can't get the camera low enough, but if you put a box under it, it doesn't drop all the way to the ground, and it keeps it elevated enough that you can pull it out and put it back. That's my trick for the belly pan. If you got 2 people, it's no big deal, but when you're doing this by yourself on the ground, so put a box under the back end of it, and then you can slide. There's the starter right there. Okay guys, once we get the belly pan out of the way, we're gonna put us a big jack under that frame member right there, and we're gonna get up so we can get under this car. There's only one other video I know on YouTube, and this guy is going through this little hole right here. Well, I'm not a contortionist. I don't know how he does it, but now that we have a clear opening, this here is your negative cable coming straight from the battery, and right above it, right there, is your positive. And as you can see, right there where the red cap is the main positive cable coming from the battery. And it just spades off onto a nut and then to the engine. So we need to take a nut off of that right there and pull that off. This right here, the ground from the battery, ties into the bolt holding the bottom starter bolt, tied into this one right here. Both of these are heavily insulated with heat shielding too. But that's your negative, that's your positive. Whenever you take your nuts and bolts off to the belly pan, organize them so you don't get them mixed up in order, because they're all different. Those are nuts, those are screws, or these are bolts, those are screws, those are nuts, and those are bolts. And all you need is a 10 millimeter and a Phillips head screwdriver. Once we get the belly pan off, we can put us a big floor jack in here. Now at this point, I have everything off the starter. Both wires are off. All the bolts are loose but the very top one, and I can't even get my finger on the top one at this point. I did take that bracket loose, which is going to help tremendously. Dropping that bracket. Alright, to take the wires and the mounting bolts off of the starter, we need a 13 millimeter, and the main hot wire, positive wire going to it, is a 13 millimeter, and the trigger wire going to the solenoid is a 10 millimeter. This is why you have to disconnect the battery cable. It is a must. And you have to grunt. If you're not grunting, you're not working. Alright, I was afraid of this. I can't get enough slack. There we go. Now, how do I get on the trigger wire? This one's going to be totally by feel. You can't even see it. I'm on there now. I would like to see a TV show where the engineers that make and design this thing have to, the engineers that make and design these have to go repairing them. I can't even get my finger on it. This is going to be one of those two-handed operations. I knew this was going to be hard. Doggone it. There's a frame member right here, and I can't put any kind of extension or swivel, or I have just enough room for. See, it's so loose the ratchet won't turn it, and you're trying to hold the socket with the. I guess the end of the stud got boogered up somehow. Aggravating. We're going to move this wiring harness out of the way here. I'm to the point that I didn't want to have to start taking all this stuff loose, but maybe I will. Yeah, it's going to fight me the whole way just to move a wire out of the way. Damn. This ratchet is aggravating me too. I want to take all these connections. Okay, I want to take all these connections and I want to clean them up really good. Get any kind of road grime, oxidation, anything like that off of them. I don't want to use sandpaper because I don't want to go scratching and leave grit behind. You know, when you drive through the rain, water's actually getting up on this. Or going down a gravel road or something like that, you know. Of course, my light won't stay. Okay, there we go. It's out. Oh, it's a pain. That top bolt, oh, it was a pain. You basically got to get a ratchet going in from this way. Underneath, you just got just a small amount of room, and you got to put extensions that are just the right size. A 2-inch extension on a 3/8 ratchet and a deep well is how I did it with 13 deep well. And get on that bolt that's back there. Okay, that's how we did it. Right there. There's our trigger wires and our main hot wire. Alright, as you can tell, the hot wire just comes off that. Cable right there. So we're going to take an emery cloth, not an emery cloth, Scotch-Brite pad, and clean this up good so we know we're going to have a really good connection when we put it back together. At least it's not as heavy as the old-fashioned ones, you know what? I clean these bolts really good with carburetor cleaner before I put them back. Now the fun one. The one you can't even see. I knew this was going to happen. That's why I brought a magnet out here. I really want to torque these down before I do that final torque on the top. I don't want to pull my ratchet off until I know that this is where it needs to be. Alright. So I don't know if this is going to show up under here. I don't even know if the camera's even running. Alright, that is the setup to get that top bolt. Okay, I couldn't use two extensions. I had to use a deep well. I have like this much play, half-inch play, before this bottoms out on the frame and that bottoms out on the starter. So that's what I had to do. Alright, this is going to go back there. your main ground. Like all the others, we're going to clean this up with Scotch-Brite pad. Alright guys, now for the trigger wire. Now the new one's got a lock ring, or not a lock ring, lock washer. How do I get my hand up in there? Alright, feel around, make sure it's not touching anything else. Alright, now for the ground, or for the hot. I gotta bend it to get it back on there. Right, this is your ground. Well, that ain't gonna work. I'm gonna do a ratchet. It's gotta be tight, guys. If it ain't tight, the car will quit running. What? Alright, now next we're going to put this back on. Don't take these off, it ain't worth it. You don't get much. And this bolt here, the only way to do it is with you can't get in there with nothing. And I do not have a ratchet wrench that's this small. Okay. Last element is this thing here. How am I supposed to put that back on there? I don't think it's going to fit. Yeah, it ain't going to fit. See, the new one's got a different... That's not going to fit. See, that snaps on. The new one's got a big cable that goes across there. See, that's going to be in my way. Well, guess I'll have to leave it off because there's no way. Alright. it's going to focus or not, but can you see what they did with their impact? I had new tires put on the front, and I worried about it when I brought it home because I torqued my wheels with a torque wrench. And the way this is supposed to be torqued to 80 foot-pounds, and they had it to about 180. I had to use a breaker bar to get them loose, and they're not supposed to be that tight. See? Man, they boogered it up. See, that's almost tight enough right there. 80 foot-pounds is not a whole lot. Yeah, guys, this sucks. Now will I even be able to get it off? My first YouTube video ever is about how do you open the trunk when the battery's dead. This is how I do it. You pull this string right here. You see, the string is attached here. Crazy, I know. Okay, now we need to, now we're going to reattach the battery cable, and when we do, the alarm system's going to go off when we start it. Okay, guys, moment of truth, got the battery hooked back up. Let's see if it's fixed. It works. Cool. What's she listening to? It's alive. Okay guys, before we return this to get its $20 core, I would like to see why it failed. So we're going to take it apart and see if it was. I bet you the chances are it was this solenoid. I remember once out on the river on my boat, the starter wouldn't work, and I just took it apart and cleaned up the commutator, put it back on, and it started, and it ran another couple months before I replaced it. It was just dirty, just carbon built up. And of course, as soon as I start doing this, the neighbor's starting their blower. Oh yeah, there's the problem right there. See that, guys? See the brushes? They're worn out. Now see, what you could do if you rebuild this thing is you just replace these 4 brushes. But as you can tell, the brushes they're worn way down. There's a spring in here, and yeah, the commutator, if you just clean that up with, you don't want to use sandpaper, but if you use a Scotch-Brite pad, you could clean that up and replace the brushes. See, the magnets still look good. And then in here we had well, here's the magnets here. It's full of metal, brass, full of brass. And then in here, this is how it gets its power with these gears, because it only has to spin this, and that's why it's so little. Remember the big old starters, how big they used to be? Well, that's what makes these little tiny ones so powerful, is these gears right here. See, it spins them and they go around like that, and it's going to, I would say, give it 3 times as much torque because of those gears to spin this. Which, when you engage your solenoid, there's a pair of forks in there that are going to go like that and push this out to engage. But yeah, what happened to those brushes is they wore down to the point they were overhanging here and bottoming out on this, and that's why it was. So yeah, if I really wanted to, I could clean this up, clean up the commutator, and probably for $10 I could put new brushes in there, clean all this carbon out, and it'd work fine, as long as this solenoid. Oh yeah, we'll go get some Torx and we'll pull the solenoid off next. But so this here in the solenoid is what this plunger is what causes that to come in and out and engage your flywheel. But this is sealed. You used to be able to take these apart and repair them. Your magnets in through there.